This actual play is intended for mature audiences and contains themes some viewers may find upsetting. Please check each episode's show notes for specific content warnings and enjoy the show with care.
The Old Fire.
Narrate a flashback to your greatest triumph as a member of the Crystal Door. What impossible threshold did you cross, and how did your mastery of the body make you the quiet legend of your order? We are in a large chamber. It's a low-ceilinged vault, and there's an expectant hush in the room. There are dozens of robed initiates of the Crystal Door looking on intently. In the center of this large chamber is a large glass tank. That tank is filled with water. And in that tank is Fenwin, much younger than he is now, maybe even kind of late teens. And coiled around him is a large reddish-brown sea serpent, slowly constricting. But Fenwin's face is implacable. And the initiates watch in amazement as around the room hourglasses are turned to mark the passing of time within which Fenwin has been in this watery prison. How much longer can he hold out? We then see Fenwin very nearly the age he is now, and we see where this training has been put into practice. There is a still ocean, and it is bronzed by the sun as it's dropping over the horizon in the distance. We see a fleet of heavily armed galleys protecting 3 ships, each bearing on its masts the sigils of royalty, of wealth. And beneath the surface, completely submerged, is Fenwin, clinging to the underside of the hull of one of these ships. We see that the shore is miles away, and he is just waiting patiently for the sun to disappear completely. Back in the tank, there are quickly hushed gasps spreading around the room as what looks like a barely perceptible grimace flashes across Fenwin's face as the serpent squeezes. His shoulders start to fold inward with a crunch, and the serpent unhinges its jaw, slips its mouth around Fenwin's head, and starts to slowly swallow him whole. With the sun now down and gone, the rest is academic. It's easy. Getting on board the ship, moving past the crew, blending into the shadows is nothing to Fenwin. Nor is getting below decks. Not a blade drawn, not a drop of blood spilled. Back in the tank, Fenwin has now been completely swallowed. The serpent is slowly turning in the murky water, and the initiates are losing their shit. We can see the outline of Fenwin's body, the relief almost perfectly imprinted into this serpent's belly. We see his face, and then we see a smile spread across it. Back on the boat, getting into the chambers required a little more elbow grease. That's evidenced by the two bodyguards who are now face down and unconscious in the hall. Fenwin has reached his extraction target. There's a 4-poster bed in the center of the room. He approaches slowly, pulls back the curtain, and we see in his face a flicker of something. It's not recognition, it's more like conscience, perhaps. And then we see who he's looking at. It's a young boy, no more than 5 or 6, and the young boy's eyes creak slowly open to see this intruder. And Fenwin just shh. Back in the vault, the tank now only holds what remains of the serpent. The water is glittering with scales and purpled with blood. Fenwin is out of the tank, and he is barely out of breath, and he is being congratulated by crowds of initiates slapping him on the back and wiping down the viscera up in the kind of upper reaches of this vault. The hooded masters look on with silent approval. Back in the current day, just after this incident with the boat, we are in the very same vault, or at least a part of it. And there is a similar celebratory air. There is chanting out on the streets, and Fenwin watches it from a secluded balcony. His successful extraction complete. The bell tower chimes, and the city now knows what Fenwin does. The target, the child prince, has been executed. And Fenwin looks down at his hand. He's holding something small and round and shiny. And as the crowds below cheer and the city is alive with royal blood spilled, Fenwin is holding a small silver brooch bearing the sigil of a great house, 2 stags, antlers locked, the sigil of a prince, a boy who would never become king. There's no room for sentiment in the crystal door. Fenwin tucks the brooch into his cloak and melts into the shadows.
Okay, our startup session. So we have an active mystery, which I will recap for you. The main thing you're trying to figure out right now is how to call the Pale Crossing back to the shores of Elegy so that you can journey to the lands remaining. And so you currently have 5 clues for that on a complexity 6. So you're in pretty good shape there as far as that goes. This also might be a nice time to check in with everyone's conditions. Let's just go through here. Ash, what conditions do you have currently?
I am marked by the Black Cortege, and I'm also stringed.
Thank you. Theia, the Waxing Tone.
I'm unnerved and I have shaky hands.
Calyxe the Verdant Crucible.
I am chilled to the bone, scratched and torn, and the herald of the speaking root.
And Fenwin, who moves like ink and quite a bit more in water. What do you have right now?
I have the judgment of Callix, and that judgment is that I'm weak.
Fantastic, thank you. If you wish, you can mark new end of session questions at this point, and I will go ahead and tell you your new mission from the Wolf King, Theia. You hear a whisper on the wind as things settle in the Morning Tower, having just entered it and defeated the pallbearer. A wind kind of blows through the tower and whistles up. We'll talk more about the tower in a minute. But you hear, sing a song to the fog-shrouded sea while moving across it. The Morning Tower. You have just defeated the pallbearer, and you're standing amidst his ruin. When you're approached by a nun, soft-spoken and wide-eyed, her habit neatly kept, though you can tell even in the candlelight that the hems are wax-stained and mended more often than replaced. Ah, embers. Yes, I can feel it, the warmth you carry. Forgive me, I still forget myself whenever an ember arrives after all these years. The tower somehow feels less heavy when you're here, and so you are very welcome indeed. Please step deeper inside. I am Sister Shayna. We have candles enough and time. Well, I suppose time behaves differently for those who've already died once. The Morning Tower is... Well, there are lots of parts to it, several parts to it, but you only have access to the Hall of Remembrance currently. But it's a lot. The Hall of Remembrance soars nearly 10 stories high. The walls dotted with hundreds of alcoves and burial niches, most with shrines remembering the world that was, and some with the belongings of embers and other supplicants. Sweeping stone pillars are carved with thousands of prayers in 100 tongues. Candles burn everywhere, on ledges, in alcoves, at the base of statues. Yet the light never feels warm, only sufficient. The air smells of wax, old incense, damp stone, and every footstep echoes as if answered by another a heartbeat too late. Let's paint the scene. The Morning Tower was built thousands of years before the Dimning. It has served many different purposes by many different people and gone by many different names in all that time. Centuries from now, when the long wake is over, it will serve some new purpose. What remnants of the Morning Tower's earlier incarnations can still be found here?
I think that there is... Most of it is crumbled away, been ravaged by time. But somewhere quite centrally in the Hall of Remembrance is what used to be a sacrificial altar.
Arrow slits repurposed for holding candles from a time perhaps someone hoped to defend themselves from the doom that was inevitable upon us all.
Before, it was a monument of the long wake. It was a monument of the early procession. And at the far end, wrapped in stone, bent and broken, are the pipes of an old organ. And the pedals, the wood of it is warped and cracked. But you can almost still see how the air moves around the pipes, through it, in it, threatening to make a noise at any moment that will sound haunted and hollow.
covered by dust and age and low down on the floors and in the corners. There are bits of color hidden. Little drawings made by small hands. Numbers added together. A place of learning to know what is to come.
The Morning Tower is a little bit like your home base. You can return here after you resolve mysteries, and you're here now, having opened it. While you're in the Morning Tower, you can explore it like any other place. You can visit your personal alcove to restore your relics and equipment, to establish a personal shrine, and possibly to do ember moves related to your alcoves. I think Callix has such a move. You can chat with side characters and special characters called supplicants who can be found here eventually. And most importantly, you can pray at a shrine of remembrance. Shrines of remembrance are maintained by the nuns who live in the Morning Tower to remember groups of people who are now lost forever, and individuals who stood bravely against the Dimning. When you pray at a shrine of remembrance, you will take turns narrating a flashback showing a scene from the time of the old fire. In doing this, we get to learn about the world as it was outside the lens of the embers, thus getting a more complete picture of the world. At the end, you each get a reward. And so before you can do anything else right now in the Morning Tower, you must decide as a group if you want to pray at a shrine of remembrance.
I mean, I'm always up for narrating scenes with you guys. Always.
Love to pray.
Well, we didn't come all this way. We didn't come all this way to meet nuns and not say a little prayer for them, now did we?
Indeed. In order to pray at a shrine of remembrance, one of you has to pay the cost of marking a cinder. Who would like to do that?
In terms of that currency, I'm afraid I'm a little low, so if someone else wouldn't mind, that would be most useful.
I think Theia is very happy to lead the way towards this shrine. Take a theatrical bow and whisper, "Do you know of the physical melody that bodies are tools for both music and worship?"
So you have marked, let's see here, the physical melody. Now this is important. Bodies are tools for music and worship. Keep that in mind. The shrine you're going to be praying at is called the Gilded Shrine. In the time of the old fire, great wealth could build walls higher than accountability, and some believed gold alone could hold back the end. By praying at this shrine, you recall a wealthy merchant, his true name long devoured by the Dimning, whom we shall call Lord Merciful, master of a prosperous castle town. When the Dimning crept across the land like a slow eclipse, Merciful sealed his gates, gathered the wealthy and the favored, and vowed to outlast the darkness with revelry. Now I'm going to assign you each 4 prompts, and if you've played the Between, and I know you all have, you know what this is like. You're gonna be narrating a scene. This doesn't have anything to do with your embers. This is just a scene from the time of the old fire. But there's a little twist here, which is your narration has to incorporate the physical melody. Bodies are tools for music and worship. So your narration has to reflect that in some way. It can be a very obvious connection, or it could be something more subtle in the background. The first prompt is going to be Jess. The second will be Wren. The third will be Matt. And the fourth will be Michelle. Jess, Lord Merciful stands atop his castle walls, watching the first signs of the Dimning coil through the lowlands. Please narrate a flashback showing how he orders the gates sealed, refusing refuge to the desperate masses outside. What excuses does he give his guards? What cruelties or comforts convince the wealthy within that safety and pleasure are theirs by right?
The city is built in 3 rings. And as the bells ring out, and as the gates shut on the first ring, you can hear the cries, those melodious cries, as the poor realize that something is wrong. And suddenly they are barred from the 2 inner rings. The guards are looking to one another in confusion. They have never heard these bells before. They know what they mean, but they are beside themselves. Merciful looks down, and through a great horn leveled at the top of the castle, this great bellowing and deep voice echoes across the lower 2 rings. Only lives that bear weight will be able to withstand the coming storm. Their weight in gold in the eyes of our most prosperous gods. Come now, those who bear weight, to the inner sanctum, to my gilded cathedral. There we shall withstand. There we shall survive. And it is at that point the bells begin to ring again, this time in a higher tune, a higher octave. The second of the gates close, and those who are just wealthy enough, but not wealthy above, do not make it through that second set of doors as it closes, as the guards again begin to shunt and to lock. Do not worry, says Merciful, to those who are gathered by the gilded cathedral, for you are the divine chosen. Have our golden bells not rung for you? Have you not knelt and heard the word at the pulpits, made of diamond rubies and glittering gold? Our affluent God's words are for you and you alone. For you have paid the price. It is you who have built the cathedral, not those below. For riches are the only true measure of a man in this world. His weight. His weight.
Wren. Inside the castle, the feasting begins. Please narrate a montage of revelry. Rich fabrics swaying in torchlight. Platters of fruit and sugared meats, music loud enough to drown out the screams below the walls. What luxury becomes grotesque in the face of the dimming? What guest whispers the first fear that something is wrong inside the walls, too?
Ketterling is a man of weight. He is a man of size and stature and great weight, and as he moves through the dining hall, he realizes that there is not a great number, but the food. The food, as servants bring out these luscious, rich pastries and meats dripping in wines and sauces, gaudy decorated with tinges of gold that do not need to be there, and they add nothing to the taste. But of course, this is a feast for king-like, and they are royal-like. And as some guests pull servants into their laps as they bring out food, trays topple onto the ground, and they laugh and they cry out in joy because they are safe. They are not like the others. This is for them. And some take servants into other rooms, and some lie on the ground and roll in ecstasy, and they shovel food into their mouths, scoffing, foam and frothing up across their faces and their eyes and their mouths, and some choke and they writhe on the floor and they vomit on the floor, and it spreads across these thick, luscious red carpets. Foul smells, and others laugh, and they do not help, because we are fortunate enough to be here among all of this wonder, safe from the wretched scorn outside. Kettling is a man of knowledge, of mercantile trade, of movement, and he watches the movement of the shadows beyond the castle walls. And he watches the movement of the shadows within the castle walls. And Kettling is a man that does not know much fear, but he feels something shift and shudder in his heart. And he looks to the side and he sees his wife whisper to another guest who is not paying attention. He is far too embroiled with making this servant girl his little toy. And Kettling looks at Merciful, looks for Merciful, but Merciful is nowhere to be seen. Merciful has gone deeper into the castle and left them here to feast. And Kettling knows all at once that Merciful has left them here as fodder.
Matt, the dimning slips past the gates. Please narrate a flashback showing its first touch inside the castle. How do the revelers deny what is happening? What lie does Lord Merciful tell to keep the party going?
Two revelers spill out into a hallway, laughter echoing behind them, coming from one of the halls where this obscene festival of gluttony is taking place. It's a man and a woman getting away from everyone else, perhaps getting away from their husband and their wife, who they know are in there. And the woman pushes the man up against the arch of a window frame, and they sink into a forbidden, but at this point, doesn't being reckless just feel great. And their sweaty palms press against the glass and accidentally pushes a window open, and you can hear the screams still ringing out from down below. But they're met with laughter. The woman finds this incredibly funny. She's intoxicated on the mead and the wine, but also the power of being here and not being outside. And she clambers up onto the sill and hangs out of the window and just cackles, just screams the most uninhibited laughter across the courtyard and then through the mist to the people below. And then, almost as if her voice is snuffed out, she stops, and something at the back of her throat catches. And her companion, who's laughing along, pulls her back in. And when he sees her face, he realizes something is very, very wrong with her. Back in the hall, Lord Merciful is holding court, being gregarious as he can be, and he sees the two lovers stumble back in, and he knows that something is very wrong with them. Their eyes are blackened, their arms and legs seemed curled and cramped to their bodies. They don't quite seem to be moving freely. But he wants to make a show of it. And he says, "The entertainment has arrived," and runs over to them and gets the band to strike up around them. And he takes a garland from the table and a tablecloth and wraps it around them and mimics their awkward lumbering movements as if it's some new dance that is being unveiled at a debutante's ball. And as it becomes obvious that the laughter is starting to fade at this initially quite amusing scene, and that these people are in some sort of trouble, he says, they're recreating that historical moment, the death of the Golden Emperor. And he reaches onto the table and pulls a knife and just thrusts it into the man's belly. And then he puts the knife in the woman's hand and says, driven mad by guilt, she takes her own life and plunges it into her belly. But they just don't stop walking.
Finally, Michelle, the dimning overtakes the castle entirely. Please narrate a flashback to the reveler's downfall. Does Merciful try to bribe the darkness with gold or face it with hollow dignity? How does decadence become terror?
The screams pouring through the window mingle with the screams of pleasure and ecstasy and outrage and horror within this hall. The percussive sound of footsteps thundering accompanies this discordant din as Lord Merciful, bloodied knife in one hand and a soup tureen frantically filled with food under the other arm, runs and runs and runs up the spiral staircase in the center of the tower, in the center of this cathedral, in the center of this city, to the very top of the bell tower where still those golden bells peal out their warning, a warning no one is left to heed. And as he reaches the top, he stands beneath the largest golden bell. He grabs the clapper and he pulls it down around him. Safe in his golden cage, the weight of it protecting him as the screams and the outrage and the horrors and the terrors and the blood resonate around, vibrating and circulating and ringing, legato luring him into a peaceful and pleasurable sleep until clang, 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 clang. Over and over again, the clanging against the outside of the bell. Surely the weight of the bell will protect you, Lord Merciful. No one is alive to find out.
Thank you all. That was a suitably grim way to kick off the morning tower. You get rewards. The Ember who marked Cinder, which is Theia, you get to add the Gilded Seal to your equipment. A heavy signet once used to press wax onto decrees of wealth and denial. Holding it recalls hollow splendor and the walls people build around themselves. There are two aspects there. Press wax onto decrees of wealth and denial, and recalls hollow splendor and the walls people build around themselves. The rest of you get a reward as well. You each get to add an aspect to one of your relics. So you have those blanks under your relics. You get to add one aspect to one of your relics inspired by something from the remembrance. If you have an idea, go ahead and just say what it is and note it. Otherwise, you can ask for ideas from the table, I suppose.
I'm going to add the Mama's Garland to the quick change kit that I have with the theatrical makeup and everything.
I think I might add the sacrificial dagger that was used.
Intriguing. You have to add that to one of your relics. So how is that going to be?
Oh, right. Right. No, that probably...
You can add an aspect like that, though, like
An aspect.
a sacrificial blade or something like that.
Yeah, I'll add a secondary sacrificial blade to Harrow the Martyr Catcher.
And a prayer can be an aspect.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the idea is it's something. It's almost like something spiritual that gets added to your items, right? Something cosmic.
I kind of want, I need to phrase it better, but one of the prayers from the, I'll figure it out.
And then with that, once you've collected your rewards for the shrine, there is now just your free time in the morning tower. You can chat with this nun if you wish. in the future there will be there'll be other characters in the tower. Right now it's just this nun, and there's another nun, but we haven't met her yet. You can also visit your own personal alcove. You'll have your own alcove in the morning tower in the Hall of Remembrance, and you can do 2 different things at your alcove, or 3 really. You can essentially recharge an item, basically. So like if you have a relic or a piece of equipment, you can leave it in your alcove. It has to stay there until you're able to come back to collect it. But once you do, it comes back with all the aspects unmarked. You can also do something special called establishing your own shrine in your alcove. And so the way that works is you mark an aspect on your sheet, tell us what the aspect is, and then the rest of us will collectively come up with what is essentially a flashback prompt connected to the aspect you marked. And then in the future, you can mark this when stoking the fire instead of the old fire or the fire to come. So you have like a third option, essentially. And you can have up to 5 of those. And so every time you visit the Morning Tower, you can get a new one if you wish. And so those are all things you can do. And so I think we'll just go around the table and see what everyone's interested in doing. Oh, there's also, I think, Callix, you have a move that you can do. I don't think if you can interact with it too much right now because there's some things that kind of come first. But if you want to kind of show us a little scene of what it's setting it up, I'm totally into that. So, but let's go around the table. What do you think, Fenwin?
Where else did we have to explore on Elegy? I went to the family shrines, but I don't know which one I went to. I can't remember.
I don't think we ever defined it. Are you leaving the Morning Tower?
I think so, yeah. I think that now Fenwin has broken in all by himself with no one else's help. This is all a bit like, okay, I thought there'd be cool stuff in here, but there isn't. So I think Fenwin is ready to get back on the trail, I think. So I'd like to go and explore some other family mausoleums, I think.
Okay, we'll come back around to that. Ash, did you want to do anything inside the Morning Tower?
Inside, no, I wanted to find Vera again, and then explore a bit, maybe those family mausoleums. I know Fenwin went there, but Ash doesn't know where Fenwin's been.
Very good. Callix, is there anything you'd like to do inside the Morning Tower?
Well, funnily, you should ask. I think maybe I'll go visit my alcove, as there is something of deep importance to me there. And then, if the option occurs, I would like to go and have a chat with Sister Shayna.
Fantastic. And we'll check in with Theia as well. Theia, is there anything you'd like to do in the Morning Tower?
I think that Theia sees Calyxe making off somewhere deep within the tower, and the other two making to leave, and thinks, well, surely someone should speak to this lovely nun. So she'd like to have a chat with Sister Shayna before Calyxe returns.
Why don't we start with Calyx in your alcove that you're establishing here? So what do we see?
So these alcoves are pre-built, or do they form as...
There's hundreds of them, and
okay.
Basically some of them have shrines like the one that you just prayed at. Some of them have like stuff from other embers. There have been many embers before you. You essentially just find an empty one and do whatever you're going to do in there. So it's like your locker.
I think she, somewhat thoughtfully, knowing this is a place of prayer, of reverence, of piety, she is moving up the tower, up those spiraling stairs, everything notched into the side, and running her hands through the stone into the grout to feel the moss that has gathered there over the years. And as she does, the moss talks to her and leads her off down one of the winding tunnels that the Morning Tower doesn't feel deep enough to hold, and yet it definitely is. And as she winds and winds, she finds a little shaft of light piercing down from a ceiling above. And within the shaft, a sapling grows. And we are an imperceivable amount of height up, and there is a tree here, for nature finds a way, and nature knows. And Callix is down on her knees and her hands in front of this thing, this miracle within the stone, and is pressing her hands to it and admiring it and seeing how it grows, and most importantly, what it needs. For it needs. Nature always needs. And this beautiful thing that she will feed, that she will nurture. This will be hers. This will be where it starts. This will be part of the Crucible. And what's really beautiful about it, and what makes her all the more adamant that she is meant to be here and that all of this is connected, the wolf, the mouse, and the sword, is that this is an ash sapling. Isn't that just beautiful?
I love it. So something that I wanted to tell you about from last session is I was paying attention to Herald of the Speaking Root, but I forgot to tell you to mark your boxes. And so with what you've just narrated, plus from last time, you should now have 3 boxes ticked on your Herald of the Speaking Root. 2 from last time and this one just now. While you're at your alcove, would you like to either place one of your relics or equipment in it to reset them, or establish a shrine?
I think I would like to establish a shrine.
In order to do that, you have to mark an aspect.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Well, in the name of sacrifice. The Fey Eye in the claw of the Tenderbark Confessor. The Fey Eye that belonged to someone important to Callix at some point. This seems like a good way to start new beginnings, and so...
Go ahead and mark that. And the rest of us will now come up with a brand new prompt, a new narrative prompt that Callix can use later when stoking the fire. Something related to this Fey Eye, something we think would be interesting to learn about Callix. If anybody has any ideas, I'm sure we can discuss them now.
Oh, it just instantly jumped to me of like narrating what the last thing the Fey Eye saw was, or something that the Fey Eye had
That's pretty
seen.
good.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I feel like Callix is, no offense, a little bit shameless. I feel like there's little that Callix would be so desperate to stop someone from seeing. So I'd be very intrigued to know what this eye saw that resulted in Callix having to pluck it from the socket where it belonged.
But basically, we're going to say that your first prompt is going to be narrate a flashback to the last thing the Fey Eye saw.
Can it be specifically what the Fey Eye saw you doing?
Sure. And so whenever you stoke the fire in the future, you can mark that instead of one of the others. Sister Shayna, she seems very excited that there are embers here in the Morning Tower. She also seems kind of weirdly sad about the pallbearer too, even though the pallbearer had kind of become monstrous. And so you can kind of see her like kind of kneeling at the edge of the big coffin, where he is now at. And she's kind of saying a little prayer, and she kind of stands up and she kind of sees that everyone else is kind of scattered, but you're still there, Theia. And she just sort of like, she kind of walks up to you and she says, I never thought the tower would sound like this again. Do you hear it? The silence, it's cleaner. The pallbearer was never cruel to us, not really. But he made every prayer feel like a rehearsal for our own burial. I think he wanted rest for all of us, for all of you. And I can't say I blame him particularly.
Theia perches on the edge of the pallbearer's coffin and crosses her legs. Sweet sister, are you not already at rest? Are you not already buried within this tower, whose doors were until quite recently sealed shut?
I don't know if I would quite put it like that. I have duties to perform.
And what duties would those be?
Someone has to tend the shrines. Someone has to keep them tidy and clean. Who else will remember the world that is past if not us? Here in the long wake.
So you remember the world that is past?
I think I do. Sometimes it feels as if, well, sometimes I wake up and it feels as if it was just the day before, but I know that can't be right. It's been many years now, perhaps many decades. Sister Nor, that's the other sister here. She says that the world had it coming, but I'm not so cynical as all that.
Sweet sister. Theia takes both of her hands and holds them together in a sort of prayer. Won't you tell me a story of the world that you knew?
Go ahead and make the information move with presence. Let's see if what is revealed here, if anything.
Presence. 5, 6, 7. That's 9.
We'll come back to this. So, Ash and Fenwyn. There's a funny little thing about the rules where you can only return to the Morning Tower after you resolve a mystery from the lands remaining. So if you leave now, that's kind of it for until then. So, Fenwyn, you said you were going to one of the family vaults. Are you going back to that one that you were originally trying to scope out?
I think that I would be drawn back to that one, yeah. But I wouldn't be averse to Ash coming with me, given that I was perhaps a little slow off the mark before when dealing with the lumbering ghoul.
Ash?
I've no problem coming with Fenwyn.
Very well. You can make your way back over to that family vault. And the door is still cracked open a bit. You can still kind of slip inside there, though you don't hear any more voices coming from down below. What do you do?
I think Fenwyn turns to Ash and says, yesterday or earlier this evening, I have no conception of the passing of time here. There were animated folk at work here. Did you see anything like that on your travels with the minstrel?
Animated in what way?
I don't mean they were proffering lively discussion, let's put it that way. I think they were past their best from another time. Ghouls, you could say.
Oh, when we went up to the cliffside, there was a young child, but he was a ghost of a kind. I'm not sure that's what you're meaning.
I take no comfort from this anecdote, soldier. It seems this place is accursed, and
we are cursed, apparently.
I'm starting to suspect that to be true, yes. And I have little interest in the relics and the vestment of the holy. I am eager to escape the superstitious and the faithful, and I fear they will be at every turn on this accursed island. Do I take you as a man of dogma or a man of reason?
Ash pauses for a bit. I believe in the tenets set out before me by my, well, I suppose they're not here, really, but they are, in a way. I suppose it's circumstantial.
I think Fenwin's going to, like, now he feels like Ash has got his back. I think Fenwin's going to enter the tomb.
Is there, like, insignia or things that might be notable about, like, the tombs that differentiate them?
Make the information move.
Oh, yeah.
With reason, please.
Cool. Thanks. I'm gonna bump that up because I want to know things.
You're gonna bump it up with the fire?
Yeah.
Interesting. What did you get on your roll?
It was a 6.
Could I possibly bump it up by marking a relic?
Yeah, you can mark an aspect to just bump it up to a 7. That's a much more efficient way of doing it. Since you're there.
I wonder if you're looking for some signal or insignia on the crypt, and I get out my tar paper from my burglar's tools and kind of like smearing it down or doing a wax rubbing of something, and it reveals something is revealed.
Oh, I like
that
that.
work?
That's pretty good. Yeah. Are you cool with that help, Wren?
Yeah, that sounds great.
That'll bump it to a 7. I'll tell you what you see, and I'll give you a clue. I think the tar paper does actually end up kind of revealing what had been kind of worn away by time and moisture or erosion. You can kind of see it's like a crest of a house that you will now remember, Ash. House Durellin. House Durellin was noteworthy because they frequently employed the Nameless Legion. The Nameless Legion, they were often hired for various martial, campaigns. And so you have some familiarity with House Durellin in that way. But you also find a clue. The clue, which can help you figure out how to get off this island, something you'll notice just inside the crypt. I mentioned that it's kind of like the door's kind of cracked open a bit. There's actually like a very faint violet-colored light coming from in there. And if you just poke your head inside, you'll see that there is a lantern on the ground that burns with a pale violet flame, even without oil. Now, this is actually a very special clue because it's also a piece of equipment. So it's a clue, and you can add it to your equipment. There is a complication, I fear, though. The complication is this. Almost as if their ears were ringing, you start to hear creeping about around the structure, maybe like they were kind of lying in wait underneath loose soil. Maybe they are lying prone, almost like fetal, holding their knees close to their chest as they grieve for everything they lost. But there are wretched nobles cordoning around the both of you at this point. They are much like the one I previously described. They're not actually dead. They've just been here a long time in their grief. Their skin is sallow and pulled tight across the bone, almost as if they're missing cartilage, like it's so broken down over the years. You can be forgiven for thinking they were ghouls, I suppose. And one of them, the closest one to you, as they move in, oh, the dead. The dead are the fortunate ones. They need not perform their pain. We can help you, O mourners. We can help you, aggrieved ones. We can help ease your pain by ending your life. Lo, if only someone had done such to us. What do you both do at this point?
I think Ash looks at this desperate, near destitute person, and I think, Fenwyn, you see, just it happens in the span of a blink, but there is a look of disdain passes Ash's face. But it's gone instantly, and he is back to this earnest appearance as he kneels down towards this person. Dear friend, I know grief is thorough in its surgery of the heart, but we do not need your help in this way. Suffer and grieve, but on your own.
This is I think it's the light move for now. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I am afraid that he's not going to listen to me and is going to try to attack me. To
Indeed.
Probably his own end, to be honest.
This is going to be with presence, I would say.
Presence. I'm so present. The boxcars. That's 12.
Nice. Good. Be thinking of how you dispatch this group, and I'll give you a clue as your bonus on the 12 plus. Let me check in briefly with Theia. I owe you a clue, yes? Remind me, Theia, what was the question you had asked Sister Shayna?
She asked to hear a story of the world Sister Shayna remembers.
She does tell a story. She can't remember much of what happens outside the walls of the Morning Tower. The Sisters of the Long Wake came here after the Dimning had done its dark work, and they found this tower, which was not then called the Morning Tower. It was something different. But they came to this island, and they began ringing the bells to remember the world that was lost. She tells you that it used to be more than just her and Sister Nor, that there are other sisters in the tower as well, but they haven't been seen or spoken to in many, many years. They're in the very upper vaults of the tower, the cloister. The one thing she remembers most clearly is that whenever people who had come here to grieve, or whenever embers would leave to go out to the lands remaining, she could hear them crying from the shore, "Return. That's actually your clue.
Oh, Sister Shayna. How you must long to hear a song that is not a dirge, a silence that is not enjoyable for being so silent. A cry that is not the cry of someone about to leave you.
In truth, I cannot remember music.
Theia pulls out her guitar and strums a single chord. Perhaps you will remember tonight as you dream.
I think as you're having this conversation, at some point, and here's your complication, at some point, you see the other nun coming down the stairs. She's with a man who I don't think you would recognize, but it's Mortis, we know, at the table, with his black funeral wraps and his goth, overall goth vibe. Sister Nora is an older nun. You can see in the candlelight she's shorter and more wrinkled skin, not this fresh, wide-eyed nun like Sister Shayna. And you can hear her saying, "Well, of course, Brother Mortis, we would be more than happy to have you stay here within our walls. It's been too long since we've had a supplicant within the walls of the Morning Tower." And Mortis says, "Thank you so much, sister. It would please me especially to commune and speak privately with the embers as they come and go." Sister Nor says, Yes, I think that's probably for the best. I no longer have any wisdom to give to them, I fear." But then they kind of make their way somewhere else into the tower.
Theia has no sense of who Mortis is.
No, you don't know who Mortis is.
So she just turns smiling to Sister Shayna and is like, "Oh, already less lonely for you here, I see."
Things are getting back to normal.
Indeed.
Let's check in with Callix. Callix, is there anything else you want to do in the Morning Tower? You said
Yes,
you wanted to go talk.
absolutely. I would just like to clarify if, well, I mean, technically we're not on a journey.
No.
So I cannot use my move.
No, you can't do that until your first chance to do that will be right before you get on Pale Crossing. So
Got you. All right. In that case, I think in hearing the echoing noises of the Gitten float around the tower and reverberate in ways that seem to blow the cobwebs and dust out of the air, it perks Calyx's attention, and she moves back down towards Sister Shayna and Theia. Oh. Something tells me it has been far too long since music resonated within these great halls. And her eyes also flick over to the organ in the corner.
Oh, yes. I fear that old thing hasn't... Well, I've never heard it. I don't even know what purpose it might have served at one time. I have a feeling that this perhaps was a place of celebration and joy, but I don't know for sure. That's just a theory. They say the Morning Tower has stood for many thousands of years. Who knows how many peoples and civilizations and processions and kings and queens and clerics passed through here, pilgrims perhaps. What gods did they worship? What edicts did they adhere to?
You know, you sound almost as open of mind as Sister Isha. She who would believe that the endless grief is not all that endless.
Have you met Sister Isha?
Why, yes. She's outside this tower. We have
So
seen her, spoken with her, conversed with her, discussed great ideas of religion with her.
So then she has not left the island.
She has not. And she is alone. For you have left her out there alone.
It wasn't my choice. It was I shouldn't say anything else.
Of course.
If you will both excuse me, I have many duties to attend to. Please, I hope you are able to find a peace here. And just between you and me, no matter what Sister Nor says, I think what the Embers are doing is well meant. You can save this world. We don't have to let it die.
Just as she moves off, Callix gently holds her, just a hand, one on her face, and whispers in her ear, "We will. For you are all but verdant flesh propelled by inertia. There is nothing you can do. You must leave it to us. You must. Now go."
Calyx's words are underscored by the creaking, rasping, dying breaths of an organ, which has had several keys slammed by somebody who does not know how to play it.
Theia, would you like to visit your alcove before you leave the Morning
would.
Tower?
I would indeed.
Do you have any relics that need to be refreshed, or are you good on that score?
I don't think I want to refresh a relic. I don't think I'm ready
It's a
to
little
use
early, yeah.
mine just yet. But I would like, I think, to see if I can use one of the aspects, offer an aspect to get a new fire prompt.
Yeah, to establish a shrine. What do you want to mark?
Theia will draw her dagger, the Wolf King's coda. Stories tell that it never fails to find its mark deep in the chest of the most dangerous foe, even if its victim is not the intended one. And that is the aspect I would like to mark. Its victim is not the intended one.
Ooh, what do we think, gang?
Is something along the lines of who did you write a song for or a lament for and that didn't react as you wanted them to? So was it like a love song you wrote them, or was it a dirge for someone? Like, and basically, how did it land? How did it go down badly?
I think we can sharpen it too and say, like, something like narrate a flashback to a time when your song had a catastrophic consequence for someone.
Yes, please. I would love that.
Could I add to it?
Sure.
A catastrophic consequence involving the Wolf King. The Wolf King ties are so beautiful. Maybe narrate a scene where your music had a catastrophic effect with the Wolf King.
Or what if you wanted to tie the Wolf King into it? Narrate a time that your song greatly insulted the Wolf King.
Yeah.
That's pretty good too, actually.
Ooh. Okay, interesting. So a time.
Let's do that. Narrate a flashback to a time. It'll be narrate a flashback to a time when your song was insulting to the Wolf King.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
You have anything to
When
add,
an
Wren?
insult meant for someone else insulted the Wolf King instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it sounds good.
And with that said, there's kind of nothing else to do in the Morning Tower. So if you all want to make your way out, we'll pick up with the rest of the group. We're getting pretty close to having enough clues, or actually we have a lot of clues at this point to take care of this last question. So
I think we've got 8.
yeah, you should have quite a good number now. Ash, please describe how you cause these wretched nobles to go away.
Still kneeling before the one that spoke, Ash, in a way that mirrors what Callix did, even though he cannot see her, reaches out his hands towards him and holds them, but he holds them in a firm grasp around the wrist, almost pulling him in towards them. Listen, dear cousins. We are sent by mission of the ever-burning, and you will not be standing in our way. Respectfully, have your mourning, have your grief, but look within yourself and figure out if this is something you truly want to continue for the rest of your days. You have such opportunity to do worthwhile things other than sit here and weep and moan and wail. Consider something else. And I suggest you not do this to others. Or I will come back and I will tell you again to choose better options.
I think the nobles in their shredded finery, duly chastised, sort of begin to withdraw. And they're all like quivering mouths and dry tear ducts. And some of them fall down and begin like kind of rocking themselves in their grief. And others just sort of stumble off. And you find a clue as well when you kind of pull your hands back from that noble ash. There is ash on your hands, but it has a fragrance to it like incense. It's an ash of burned incense, and it's been mixed with seawater.
I think, Fenwyn, you see Ash do an odd thing and bring his hands towards his mouth and just start licking them.
I think that's at the time when the nobles have started to recede and kind of disappear off back into the mist again. You realize there's one still standing, and he shrugs off a cloak and a bit of, regalia he's found on the floor, and it's Fenwin who's just blended in with the crowd seamlessly and watched this strange thing, and now he's kind of tilting his head looking at you as if to think, what an odd custom, soldier.
He rubs his hands together, taste of seawater, and just stands up.
I'll take your word for it.
You have 8 clues now, which is a pretty good number for trying to answer this question of how do we call Pale Crossing back. Do you all want to take a stab at it?
I think so. I think we've got the beginnings of a theory. So if people have ways to build on it, I'd love to hear it. I think it uses almost everything, all of the remaining clues that we've got. But it forms on this basis of remembrance. Elegy is an island that is moored in grief. And so every memory we've asked for has always come back to grief. In order to call Pale Crossing, instead of a funeral, instead of a wake, it has to be a procession of remembering. It has to be this notion of us bringing back the lands remaining to our minds and remembering that the world beyond exists. The sea remembers because nobody rose to to Elegy. The sea guides us there. The sea guides us back. The sea remembers. The procession mask made of wax, I think we mold. It is still malleable. We ply it from a death mask into one with a smile, into one that is alive and joyous, remembering what life is. The discarded regalia of the Crypt Knights, we wear to remember them and to honor them so it's no longer discarded. A shard of the mirror that reflects a clear blue sky, it sees through the grey. It's the blue sky of the lands remaining.
That's a great clue for this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Smooth river stones with the symbol representing the old fire that died, the old fire that is lost in the dimning. We are to bring that back. It is symbolic of us bringing it back to the lands remaining. A lantern that burns with a pale violet flame, but without oil. It is not like life is not sustained only by fuel. There is more to it, and it is the same magic that brings the embers back is leading us there with this lantern, this light, this magical energy. Maybe the same that helps the sea remember. The embers who leave always cry out return. The embers remember. The embers crying out return remember that the lands beyond exist. It's a way of calling those whose fire diminishes again, like Sir Callix's, the way that they dim out. It's a way to bring them back should they fail, but it still establishes that the lands are there. And then the ash from burned incense mixed with seawater. Ash from the heartwood nails that Callix has is the nail of rebirth. And I think that burning ash in particular, and also to have ash here as well, it all links back to this idea that we are to be born back into the world. And so to call back Pale Crossing, we must sit on the beach and we must run this procession of remembrance. And we must sit together and remember the lands remaining. And we must sit in our masks, smiling, joyous of what we can recall from the lands previously.
Yeah, and I actually think I would even go so far as to say, based on how you're describing it, I think those last 3 clues, I think those are just like practical parts of the ritual. Like you light the lantern, you call out remember, and you burn some incense, and then you just have to kind of like go through this kind of remembrance of the old world. That would be my thinking on that, but does anybody else have anything to add to it? Because that's really good. I mean, all the rest of it sounds really great.
The only thing I had was whether or not the smooth river stones with the symbol representing the old fire were actually the payment to cross.
I wonder that. Yeah, there was a bunch of them, right? Like it's almost like these are like tokens that that which I think is pretty good too. I think it works in both cases. Yeah, I think it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, I love the visual of like a procession, like you said, Jess. Like we don that regalia and the masks, and with the violet lantern leading us and incense burning, we make our way down to the beach, and we call out that we will return, and whether that means we're returning to the world beyond or whether that means we will return to Elegy. It's not enough to remember, you must return.
The island is lousy with candles. The island is lousy with candles, so making masks out of wax shouldn't be any difficulty at all. Do you have anything to add, Wren?
No, I think just had it in hand.
I wonder if I mean it's no different to how it's explained, but I wonder if the Crypt Knights existed on this island in order to like guard that crossing in some way, and like one of us has to be dressed as one of the Crypt Knights to kind of to be like there to kind of like welcome the boat or something.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea too. Yeah, there's something interesting about like you're almost like putting on this like performance or something, in a way, which actually really like echoes nicely with like the wretched nobles that are always performing their grief, and and the melancholia constantly performing over and over again their like last moments of life or whatever. So yeah, I think it's really good. I think that's really cool. So in the answering of it, you're doing it as well, so are you all ready to do that? You can always we can try to get down into the family crypt the next time you come back to Elegy. Always beset by wretched nobles, I fear. Okay, so who's gonna roll +2 here?
I'll give it some. Okay. So it's an 8.
An 8. That is successful. and you will immediately engage with a struggle. So I think you perform the ritual as you've described it. You kind of lay out the various implements. You've got this like purple flame. You're all remembering the world that was. I'm curious, just around going around the table, you all don't remember much, but you maybe remember something. What do you think about as you try to like remember the world as it was?
Sister Shayna said she didn't remember the sound of music, but it sings in every sinew of Theia's body. Not just when she strums her guitar, not just when she sings. Every movement, every flicker of doubt and grief and sadness in the faces of the people here, all of it is music. And she thinks of the music that must exist in that world, that must have existed once when people felt more than just grief. And she holds on to that.
Callix cannot look away from the shard of mirror that shows the clear blue sky, because in that sky she can see the reflection of the sun, the great life giver, life bringer, fuel to everything that ever was and ever could be. And even as she looks at it, she can feel the earth beneath her dying without it in this great land, in this state of perpetual rot. It simply isn't right here. There has always been something beyond, something that grows and something that beckons her, something she needs to go on. And she can see it in this little shard of mirror, and while it is cool to the touch, it shines with a brilliance that she seems to remember and that she longs to feel on her skin.
Ash remembers laughter and footfalls and company, sometimes unwanted but often needed. He remembers camaraderie, and he hears footfalls of people that are no longer here, and he knows in the lands beyond this one there is truth and there are answers. And he holds to that. He holds to vows that he refuses to break and have broken for him.
As Fenwin rolls a few of these small, smooth river stones in the palm of his hand, he thinks about how they are possible payment for this crossing, and thinks about debt and burden and guilt, and how even now those forgotten debts, they will remember and they will come calling.
Who's disguised as the Crypt Knight?
I'll do it. It's fine.
Very good. You do this. You remember, you call the words, forth, remember. And we have a struggle with the boatman. The first movement. The sea is still when he arrives. The fog parts, revealing a narrow vessel wreathed in violet flame. Its oars dip into the water, each stroke leaving ripples of faint light that fade before they reach the shore. The boatman stands at the stern, tall, robed, his face a mask of dark glass. The air around him hums with sorrow so deep it feels physical, pressing against your chest until you struggle to breathe. Let's paint the scene. Pale Crossing was meant for the dead, or the living that mourn them. You are neither. What small sign tells you that your presence here offends the natural order?
I think Fenwin is stood wearing the slightly oversized regalia of the Crypt Knights, a little further ahead of everyone else on the beach. And as the boat nears, Fenwin moves slightly closer to where the tide washes up onto the sand and the surf meets his feet. And as the very second the water touches Fenwin's feet, the tide recedes violently.
As the tide recedes, sucked back into the great waters, Callix steps forward and stops immediately next to the mouse, for she cannot hear the land. It is dead here. On Elegy there was at least an echo, a murmur, something she could cling to, but here, where it is wet, sodden, there is nothing. There is no life. It is death, pure death. And that chill that she feels in her bones gets a little colder, and she freezes to the spot.
The wind sings. On Elegy it sings and it cries. No matter where you go, underground, into a crypt, or into the Morning Tower itself, the wind comes with you and whips around you and sings, but here the fog moves of its own accord, and the air is still and silent.
And even in this still and silent air, the offerings left behind by those living who came to give their dead to the crypts that dot this island, they move and they rustle, unsettled, even in the quiet.
He lifts one hand, and the purple flame flares brighter. A wave of anguish rolls outward, an assault of pure grief. It strikes like the breaking of a dam, filling your mind with memories that are not your own. Cities burning, oceans boiling, the sound of the old fire's last crackling breath. Each of you, describe how you endure the first onslaught of grief, the visions, the loss, the weight of every death from the dimning, and then roll the dark move. We'll start with Theia.
Oh, sweet sister. Now I see why you stay in there and let your memories leak away. Theia whispers to people who cannot hear her. She whispers to herself, and she casts her eye up, though the fog is thick. She knows the moons of Red Ragar and Blue Elsain are watching her. They must have seen all this too. And she thinks of how they must have suffered when they watched this world, and she promises them, it may have burned, but I will bring it back. She's taking solace in knowing that the moons will watch her and see.
What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That the fog really will thicken, and she will never see the moons again.
Ooh, how is it worse than that? I think you will retire to the Morning Tower along with Sister Shayna and Sister Nor. You will be Sister Theia. This is going to be with... I actually think... Do I want to invoke your Cinder? I don't think Cinder's quite invoked here. I think it's going to be with Composure. However, because of Unnerved, I'm going to put you at disadvantage.
That's fair. So we ignore that 6, sadly. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 9. Still.
Okay. Ash, how do you resist the this flood of memories that are not your own.
Ash feels the grief almost as a cry rising up out of his own throat. It chokes him. His breath shudders in his chest, and he feels the ghostly hands of the two that still follow with him, of Ceres and of Tyra. They've gotten dimmer, but they are still at his back, and he holds firm.
This will be with vitality. What do you pray is going to happen if you fail?
I am afraid that even with the hands at my back, I will fall to my knees.
I'm going to put you at disadvantage because of strained.
That is a 6.
I didn't say how it was worse.
That's fine.
I think I kind of like the idea of I think you won't leave the shore though. I think that's the basic problem here. Can the two help you if you bump up the roll?
Yes.
Because I think let's review the
They
move.
will.
Yeah, they can add 1 to any associated roll, so they could get you up to 7 if you use one of them.
Yeah. I think Tyra's grip is the tightest.
Yeah.
And as his knees begin to buckle, she forces him upright, and it almost sends him in the opposite direction. But when he looks back, she's gone.
The complication is going to be they both leave, but you're otherwise okay.
Okay.
Let's go to Callix. Callix, how do you try to resist this assault of grief, this psychic assault?
Calyx's mind is filled with these burning cities and boiling oceans. These are not matters that concern her. To be part of the Verdant Crucible is to put aside grief and realize that nature and the land itself must be fed. Suffering. Grief is suffering. Grief is fuel to the fire. The old fire it wants, it needs, and it must have. And therefore, the whole world must hang. That is the only way I can be satisfied. And that is the way I will push through this grief, knowing I can only be satisfied if the whole world hangs.
Go ahead and mark the kindling gate for that. It's still you're still going to be rolling with composure here. But I think Herald of the Speaking Root might be interfering with your this might be the wrong way of looking at this, right? What do you think is gonna happen? Yeah, what do you think is gonna happen if you fail?
I'm afraid I will have interpreted grief and suffering as 2 different things, and I will be cut off from the land.
Oh, it's worse than that. You'll be cut off from the land because you will be I think you'll be consumed by the ocean.
Okay.
Disadvantage,
No.
please.
Okay. Oh, disadvantage. 6.
Fenwyn, how do you resist this psychic assault?
Fenwyn knows that it's just a feeling, that this can't hurt him, and to kind of protect from that and to fortify against that, he must make his mind a vault. And even though he's lived a life very closely entwined with loss and grief, he knows how to shut things out. And he's kind of like focus on that rhythm of like being in the spaces between like fingers leafing through the pages of a book and finding the right spot with which to slip in and achieve that silence by kind of attuning his mind out of the frequencies of loss and mourning and grief.
I think because you're I'm actually going to go with reason here for your mind. I am not going to invoke your condition, though. Go ahead. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that the tide that recoiled when it touched my feet is going to come back and take me out to sea.
That's as bad as it's going to get, so go ahead and roll.
11.
Theia, I think the reason why you're able to ultimately resist is because Red Regar reveals itself in the sky through the fog, and I don't know what strength you take from that. I don't know how it helps anchor you, but you are definitely moving one tick closer to Red Regar, but you're otherwise okay. Maybe it's because Red Regar responds to memories of bloodshed and terror and grief and horror.
She remembers that yes, Red Regar must have witnessed such suffering, but grief was not the only thing Red Regar would feel in response to such a show.
Indeed. Ash, everything is as you've described it. And when you look back to see if they're still there, they're not. They're gone. But you will feel a bit of hunger from the rest of the Legion. They want to be released from this burden. There's nothing else beyond that, but I just want you to be aware of that. Callix, you're hit with this assault, and it just unmoors you completely. You walk into the surf, and we just see your rags and vines and everything just kind of floating around you like a grim halo as you sink down to the bottom of the fog-shrouded sea. The light, the purple light, the violet flame gets dimmer and dimmer as you sink down below. And as the gods that sleep deep down there welcome you in their embrace, it is the last we will know of Calyx, of the fog-shrouded sea. Unless you are stoking the fire.
I think I might, yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. Fenwyn, please describe how you resist.
It's almost like the bum note of the organ that was played earlier in the Morning Tower. That's the resonance which Fenwin finds the space in which to hide and to secrete himself away from the psychic maelstrom of despair that is besetting his fellow embers. And he finds that moment and closes all of his senses off to focus on that one thing that always keeps him safe, that steady rhythmic heartbeat that slows and quickens but is always there, and that's his metronome.
Calyx, since you've stoked the fire, you doing old fire or fire to come? Or the other one, the shrine?
I will do the old fire.
We'll resolve that at the top of the next session. You do not walk into the ocean. You manage to resist. Let's go to the second movement. The boatman steps onto the shore. The violet flame flickers, revealing that the water below the boat is not water at all, but a dark mirror showing your reflection, aged, then broken, then lifeless. His oar drags furrows into the sand that glow faintly before fading. He speaks, and his voice sounds like weeping made into language. Paint the scene. The boatman remembers each soul he has ferried across the waters. What do you glimpse in his bearing or in his words that shows you he carries this burden not as duty, but as penance?
I think that interspersing things that he says, he does the response part of a call and response work song or a shanty, and he's singing the bits that perhaps the drowned mariners he ferries across didn't get to respond to.
The hands that bear these souls, that grip these oars, that guide Pale Crossing, they are encrusted with blood always dried, no matter how wet the air, no matter how many times he washes them in the waters of the fog-shrouded sea. Always there is blood on his hands.
His head lowers, bowed at the neck. It feels as if he should tower higher than he is. And you realize he is not just bowed at the head, but the back, the weight of all of these souls pulling him down as he fights against it.
The blood remains on his hands, and while he looks like he should be taller, it becomes clear this is not one man. His face shifts and warps. His posture moves. His clothing is never the same. The sigils on it continuously shift as if he is paying penance 1,000 times over as 1,000 different men. And so very briefly, we catch a glimpse of 2 stags on a brooch, and the weeping very briefly mentions having not been on duty the day the boy who would have been king died.
The third movement. Fenwyn, our Crypt Knight. Describe how you attempt to convince the boatman to allow you and the other embers to board Pale Crossing, then roll the light move.
I think that one of the most valuable things in all of this, if all of these signs of remembrance that we are evoking to try and kind of call this boat, I think there's something about the river stones that have the mark of the old fire on them. I think that Fenwin is going to align himself in such a way with the other embers, and he can't explain it, but he's drawn to this kind of energy, I guess he would begrudgingly call it, and the symbols of the old fire on the river stones are going to glow violet. And I think that is going to be our attempt to try and legitimize this ritual that perhaps he sees through, to show that we have the light of the old fire still burning.
This is going to be the light move, and you're going to roll Cinder, because even the unscalable falls to the small and certain. And what could be more small than this little river stone? What is your Cinder?
I think it's like +2. I think I really beefed it up. No, it's -2. Of course it's
-2. How sad. So what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail right now?
I'm afraid, because it's the light move, isn't it? I'm afraid he's not going to let me on the boat, but he'll let the others on.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and roll.
It's a 3.
He will let you on, but only if you pay penance for your duplicity, pretending to be a crypt knight. You will have a permanent condition that you will not be able to shake until you come back to Elegy in order to satisfy it.
I'm taking that condition 100%.
Very well. He tells you in his weeping voice, the others may pay the fare in order to board the boat, which we'll get to in a moment. But you must pay for giving such offense. You might even get flashes in your mind of the Sacred Crypt Knight Order. And I think in order to clear this condition, you must return to Elegy. You must return to Elegy, and you must... Let's see here. I'm open to suggestions, but what I think it's going to be is you have to return to Elegy, and you have to help essentially... you have to like stand guard at one of the house crypts over the course of an entire night. Essentially, you'll have to do a make camp at a dangerous place.
So I'm going to have to hold a crypt vigil, is that what we're saying?
A crypt vigil, yes, I like that. Yeah. You can interpret the condition however you'd like.
I'm so into this. And can it be at the crypt that I've been trying to get into on Tuesday?
Yeah, that would be the great irony of it, right? Yeah, that'd be amazing. The fourth movement. The boatman will ferry you to the lands remaining and back to Elegy as you wish, but you must pay his toll. He holds out a withered hand to receive payment. Each of you must mark an aspect and describe how it pays your way.
Callix steps through the sand, the wet that laps at her skirts, and up to the boatman's withered hand. And as she has done for Fen, as she did for Sister Shayna, she puts her hand in his and clasps it gently and moves to kiss it before stopping and realizing that would be the greater mistake. And as her hands move aside, what she has left in his hand is one of the heartwood nails. Ash for healing and rebirth. She looks at him expectantly, smiling wide, joyous at the knowledge she is returning.
Ash steps forward and hovers his hand over the boatman's in a way not dissimilar to the way that the knights hovered their hands above his as he named them. And I'm going to mark on my vow plate. They say no vow sworn while wearing it can be broken, that the gods themselves will intercede if necessary. And Ash is going to say, a vow to deliver you from your burden. And I think the boatman knows that it is solid and holy, this vow.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Theia.
Theia trots over to the boatman and smirks in a way that flashes a canine. She pulls out her Howling Choir book, the book that tells tales of how the world once was, how it is now, and how it could be if the Wolf King rises again. And she says, "Oh, Charon in chains, see how your grief pulls you down, down, down into darkness. I need no tales of how the world once was. I shall remember it in my own time, and I shall bring about something better. And with her teeth, she rips out the pages of how the world once was and drops them into his hand with a snarl.
Fenwyn?
Well, do I still have to pay, given that I've got the permanent condition?
Yes, you do. That the other is a penance for your treachery.
Well, I really like the idea that Fenwin is the last to get on the boat. And if it's okay with everyone else, I would like the boatman to whisper this penance I must pay into my ear, and no one else knows it. It can be just between me and the boatman, if that's okay. I think I will mark... I think in my traveling cloak, it says, I have many pockets that contain small, helpful, and sometimes unusual trinkets. And I think that having heard that call and response of the sailor's shanty, I will find like a little knot, a little decorative knot that's been tied, and I'll press that into his palm to keep him company on his voyages.
The toll paid. You can get on the boat whenever you'd like. Once you make it back to the lands remaining, you can use your river stones with the old fire symbol to call the boatman back to you. He will always be able to be wherever there is a body of water. At this point, Callix, this is your first opportunity to do your core move because you can only do it initially. You can only do it on journeys, and you're all about to take a journey. Now, the Pale Crossing journey for your core move, the assumption is the core move takes place on the Elegy side of the Pale Crossing journey. So while everyone else is getting ready for the journey across the fog-shrouded sea, what are you doing?
Callix moves back to the Morning Tower, and under the guise of she must pray, she has found the sapling and she must pray to the sapling and continue its growth. It's where she moves off to.
Your move says, while on a journey, you can say that a named side character meets you in secret. If you do, say who it is.
Oh, they'd never forgive me. Fen.
The Gravedigger.
The Gravedigger.
Please roll with Cinder.
That is an 11.
Oh, very good.
Sorry, no, -2. That is a 9. Sorry.
On a 7 to 9, Fen comes to you, but has not yet learned of his martyrdom, or he is there to kill you. You must roll the dark move in order to turn him into one of your oracles. And I'll just set up the scene. So we assume that this is going to... Where do you want him to come to you at? Like at the tree where you plan on doing this, or somewhere else?
At the tree would make the most sense, I think.
Yeah.
I know Fenwyn mentioned there was a tree before and didn't want to tell me about it, but I think I have a sense for trees.
There's lots
And
of trees
so-
on the island. You could just pick
Fabulous.
Yeah.
One out of the way in the shadows.
On a promontory, perhaps.
Yeah. One that folks might not visit far too often,
Indeed.
but around there.
I think the scene is this. You're there at this sacred tree on Elegy. And Fen, he says, I remember what you are now. I remember what you did during the time of the old fire. You and the other druids. It's all coming back to me. It's all coming back to me. You came to my village. You took helpless people, defenseless people. And you did terrible things to them. I don't know what use the old fire was going to make of you, but I fear we're not going to get a chance to learn. He has his shovel, and he's brandishing it at you as he approaches. What do you do?
I'm relying on the fact that I can be quicker, and that as he is speaking these words, I am remembering something. I am remembering my calling and my true duty. And I pull out the iron nails. And I get ready.
This is going to be the dark move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid I'm the one that's going to end up on the tree.
It's worse than that. Only your head is going to end up on the tree as a warning to any other crux druids that might crawl out of the crypts on Elegy. I think because this is kind of essentially like a physical confrontation, I think scratched and torn will be a problem here for you. And this is going to be with vitality as well.
Okay, I'll use the iron spikes to negate the disadvantage from scratched and torn.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
10.
Please describe the process in as much grueling detail as you wish of turning Fen the Gravedigger into one of your oracles.
The shovel swings fast, but Fen has become numbed by ease. This repetitive motion that he commits to every day of digging holes, where the people are already dead. He is not used to fighting someone who is alive and who nature feeds. And the land feeds on suffering. And Callix catches the shovel with one hand, gently caresses the wood handle and throws it to the side. Her smile is wide. Her arms are open. Oh, Fen, Fen, Fen. We were such friends, you and I. You helped me awaken. You were the first face I saw when you plucked me from the dead. Do not you remember? You commented on how I, an ember, might bring order to the world. Or maybe I thought that. Maybe that's what I thought you said. But that is what has resonated within me, Fen. Don't you see? Don't you see? We will remake this place. We will remake it just so. And her hands move down his face and onto his shoulders. And up to the arms. And he's so small. And so old. He whimpers a little as she raises one arm above his head and presses it against the bark, scuffing it against it, just to hear him cry a little. There. See. This is what happens when you are soothed into a docile obedience. This is what happens when nature takes control and command. Don't you see the pleasure, the knowledge that you are about to learn and depart upon to me? You will be my oracle, Fen. Is that not wonderful? Is that not what you have always dreamed of? And the iron spike enters the sinews and the tendons, holding the wrist to the hand. Her own palm presses the nail in, slowly, so that he screams, so that he weeps, so that he cries for his mother, so that he cries for everyone he has ever loved, every single person in the village that I took, that I tore asunder, that I nailed to the trees. He cries for them, he weeps, and Calyx's smile widens. For the land feeds, and as the other arm is brought up above his head and the same hand pushes another nail into the tree, and the weeping continues, the land feasts. It gorges itself on his pain and on everything he has been holding in grief, he releases in suffering. Another nail goes in under the armpit, just pinning that muscle to the back of the tree. Another and another and another, until he is but dots and blood and a shuddering, heaving breath that scrapes against the bark. And the babble begins to come forth, that sweet, beautiful babble of truth. It sounds like roots and vines. It sounds like everything I've ever wanted to hear and haven't for the past 100,000 million years. Who knows? It is the most beautiful sound. And he is crying and crying and crying for his mother. And I remember her.
Please mark the kindling gate. And additionally, you now have your first oracle. You can, whenever you return to Elegy, you can learn some wisdom from his painful babbling. The rest of you, from somewhere on the island, you'll hear a scream. And then sometime thereafter, we'll see the four of you on your first journey on Pale Crossing. With the boatman, let's read about journeys. Whenever the Embers travel from Elegy to the Lands Remaining, or between mysteries when in the Lands Remaining, you do a journey to memorialize that travel and the passage of time. Generally speaking, journeys tell the story of a landmark or group of people you pass by in your travels. Each journey has 4 prompts, and each time you pass through that place, we mark the next prompt and do what it says. After all 4 prompts are resolved, meaning you've traveled past this place 4 different times, you get a reward. In addition to narrating the journey prompt, this is also the best time to make camp, as journeys are generally considered safe for make camp purposes. Now, your first journey on Pale Crossing doesn't have a prompt to resolve, but future journeys on Pale Crossing will. You can, however, make camp on this dreary little boat. And so, this is our first chance to do the make camp move. When you and any other number of Embers settle down to rest, you can tell a pleasant story from the time of the old fire or engage in your ritual. If you do, you clear an appropriate condition or unmark an appropriate aspect, your choice. Then, as a group, you discover a clue for an active mystery and tell the keeper what it is. Now, because we don't have an active mystery currently, you will not find the clue, but you will be able to clear an aspect or unmark an aspect or to clear a condition. Now, if this was a dangerous place, there'd be more that we do, but this is not a dangerous place. The journey on Pale Crossing is, well, it's very still. This is the sea, and yet when Pale Crossing is moving across it, it is still as glass. And it is called the Fog-Shrouded Sea for good reason, because you can't really see much beyond the immediate area of the boat. The boat itself is covered in thousands of little carvings. We'll learn more about those carvings in the future. And there's this violet glow of the boatman's lantern. He has one of those lanterns just like you, Ash. He says nothing. And the boat itself is just big enough for you all to kind of sit in a circle, basically. To get the benefit of make camp, you just have to tell a pleasant story from the time of the old fire, something you remember, and or engage in your ritual. Show us what your ritual does, what it means. The scene is yours.
Through the fog that lays heavy on this boat, one might just be able to make out the silhouette of Theia posing and making shapes and shadow puppets harlequin-like as she addresses the silent boatman. Oh, boatman. So tragic it was. I was cast out. I questioned their theology. Oh, I hope to see them again, that I might convince them to give this world another chance. But why would the old fire revive a coward? I long to find strength, but truthfully, I cannot remember the sound of music. And so Theia carries out her ritual, the story Taker's Right. And through her performance, I wish to clear the condition unnerved.
Fantastic. Let's keep it going. What's everyone else doing?
Even though the boat is very small, Fenwin is perched on the prow, which is basically just like a fist-sized piece of wood, but he is delicately balanced on his haunches, almost like a gargoyle, watching the inky black water be slowly parted as we make our progress across the Pale Crossing. And he is there indulging in his ritual, which is the Watcher's stillness. And he is detaching from the group because he feels the burden of guilt of defiling the name of the Crypt Knights, essentially. And whilst Fenwin's previous life was all about being an infiltrator, a spy, a saboteur, and worse, he holds orders to be true. And he knows that even though they were trying to invoke some kind of response from the boatman to get off this hellscape of a funeral island, he crossed some sort of line, and he knows that the others know that. And I'd like to clear the condition, the judgment of Callix, weak, please. And I think it's because Callix probably now thinks worse of Fenwin for different reasons, and perhaps is probably trying to think of a new awful barb to throw at him next time.
Calyx is sat in the middle of the boat. She wants to be as equidistant in all directions from the water as humanly possible. And her eyes slip off the mouse. They roll over the wolf. And they land on the sword. And as she does, her hands are moving over the wood of the bench. And her nails begin to pick at the grain. Something very comforting to her about the grain. And it just sort of begins to split beneath her fingertips. It's clearly not been touched in many, many a year. And it comes away in little splinters. And she's watching these three. And the boatman, he is also there. All of them reveling in their own little rituals. Trying to remember themselves, trying to remember what they are. And Calyx gently takes the splinters and pushes each one under her own nail beds. One by one, this testament of splinters, her own little ritual, because no matter the pain she has felt, no matter what she looks like, she knows that the land must be fed the suffering constantly, even when she is not touching it. And so, it does not matter if she is scratched and torn, for the land will feed. She must scratch herself more, tear herself more, if these three will not.
You can mark the kindling gate, and are you clearing a condition there or unmarking an aspect?
Clearing a condition, scratched and torn.
Mm.
Ash is sitting, I think, between Callix and Fenwin. And he has Name Taker just laying across his lap. And he is trailing his fingers still covered in that destitute noble's ashen discard. And as he trails his fingers over the blade of Name Taker, he is mumbling to himself. And then it seems to repeat, almost as if in a cadence. O ever-burning light that leads, hear me. O flame that transforms, alter me. And he's trailing his fingers over the little dings from fighting the Gesalts. Deliver us. Deliver me. From the desire to be known, the desire to be loved. Deliver us. Deliver me. And as he says, deliver us, there is almost a faint whisper of other voices joining in on the deliver us. From the fear of being forgotten, from the fear of calumny, deliver us. Deliver me. That I may be so mutable, so purified by fire that I too will diminish, and in the ashes of my arrogance find true humility. And I'm going to clear an aspect burdened not by guilt but by identity from Name Taker.
Theia, do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Theia concludes her stories, those she has taken from Elegy, makes yet another theatrical bow to the boatman and scoffs and says, Chowan in chains, you are a dreadful audience. She hops up onto the edge of the boat and prowls along it to the stern, and she watches the fog caressing and eddying around the rings on her fingers and flowing out behind her. And she remembers that the moons are watching her, and she sings to the sea. Fog-shrouded sea, not a wave breaks upon you. No white horses gallop across your misty sands. Oh, won't you speak of your memory-drowned secrets, the souls who were sunk by your cold, briny hands? Fog-shrouded sea, 'neath your placid grey surface, I can hear sobs and taste tears rich with salt. Shards of glass yield to your depth and your pressure. Fog-shrouded sea, it's not your fault.
Okay. So, having made the journey, you have resolved the mystery and you get to collect that mystery's rewards. Now, part of your rewards, and this is true of every mystery that you're going to solve in the future, is choosing a side character to become a supplicant at the Morning Tower. What this means is they will always be at the Morning Tower, and they have a little story that kind of progresses each time you interact with them. You must choose as a group between either Vera, our former member of the Black Cortege, or Sir Kalen, our Ember Grown Cold. Vera gives you one extra clue on the information move when consulting her about matters related to assassins, the dead, or secret orders, even on a miss. Sir Kalen gives an extra clue on the information move when consulting him about matters related to roads and paths, even on a miss. So the question is, who are you sending to the Morning Tower, Sir Kalen or Vera?
My first thought was Vera, but like kind of secret orders and assassins, kind of like my specialist subject. Like, surely we can lean on my knowledge for that.
Yeah, I honestly, game mechanics and strategizing aside, clearly I want my boy the coward Kalen to stick around. I love him. I love him dearly. I love our hot goth Vera too, but not as much as I love the coward Kalen. So that's my vote. But I'm willing to hear counter arguments based on actually mechanics or something.
I don't have mechanics. I'm biased towards Vera because she's the first person I spoke to. Oh god. I can see how Kalen can be useful. This is me pulling Ash out. I can see how Kalen can be useful to the group. Personally, I have a stake in any information about the Black Cortege because they will be after us forever and ever. Amen. So that might be helpful, but I don't know. I'm middling right now.
Sounds like we've got 2 votes for Sir Kalen, 1 kind of leaning toward Vera. Jess?
Listen, guys, which one of these 2 do you least want to see nailed to a fucking tree? Because that's all I'm...
Oh my god.
It is easier for me to nail someone who's a supplicant to a tree than it is a side character.
Wait, you can take our supplicants and break them by nailing
You
them
can
to the
take
tree.
your supplicants.
Supplicants are an automatic 10+. Like, I don't even gotta fight them, they'll just follow. So
I take it all back. I was trying to protect Kalen, keep
Great.
him out there.
I'm gonna nail a hot goth to a tree.
Yeah, no, you can have her.
Great, wonderful. I think it's Vera. I mean, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be Vera. If we find another supplicant that's even better tree looking, like, we get one of them, that's fine. Currently, I've got Fen. So we're all right. But I'm just saying, in the future, when we're choosing supplicants, consider that's my motivation first and foremost.
Please
Noted.
understand, you're gonna have to explain this as soon as we get back to Elegy. Why this man is mounted to a tree.
You guys don't do this where you're from? No? Oh, okay, cool. Sorry.
So Vera then?
I think Vera.
Apparently.
Sounds like it.
We're
very
enabling,
weird
we're
reasons.
enabling the
Wrong
Crux Druid.
reasons.
Indeed you are.
Ruh-roh.
Can't take my boy.
You also get to each choose a new piece of equipment. You will have some different ones to choose from. Alternatively, you can create a piece of equipment inspired by something that happened during the mystery. You get to create it with 2 aspects. So basically, you get to either create something completely wholly new that's sort of inspired by something that happened, or you can take one of the following. The Bell of the Long Wake, a small handbell tarnished and cracked that rings without sound. The bell grows colder each time it's used. A mourner's candle, a long black candle that never shortens. When lit beside the dying or the dead, the flame turns blue and whispers their final thoughts aloud. The moonlight shroud, a funerary cloth woven from grave moss and moonlight. When wrapped around a body or yourself, it masks breath and heartbeat, hiding the living from spirits and the restless dead. Gravedigger's nail, a single rusted coffin nail worn smooth from frequent handling. When pressed into the palm, it lets you sense hollow spaces, buried things, or the nearness of graves. or the salt of the departed, a small pouch of coarse gray salt said to be drawn from the tears of the dead. Scattered in a circle, it wards off spirits and shades until the circle is broken. Who would like what?
So I'm going to say right now, I don't want anything to remind me of this wretched place, but I have to take something, and I think I'm going to write my own, and it's going to be part of the Kryptonite regalia.
I love it.
And I'll write a couple of aspects for that for next week.
Sounds good.
I think, in honor of the Lord Merciful's hiding place and the deathly silence of the Morning Tower, Theia will take the handbell that rings without sound.
I think I'm going to go for the Moonlit Shroud, because the only way to make Callix even worse is if you can't hear her or know what she's doing with the restless dead.
We all need that in our lives. I'm going to take the salt of the departed.
Fantastic. Let's go to the end of session. Let's do end of session questions. Well, first things first, you get to mark XP for fulfilling your quest there, Theia. So you get an XP for that. And let's start with Ash. Well, so everyone's going to get credit for resolving the mystery. So congratulations, everyone gets that one. Did you roll a Cinder, Ash?
Not today.
Did your pride reveal itself beneath the mask of humility?
I showed disdain to the noble.
Oh, I'm kind of into that. Yeah, I'm into that. Did you hear the echo of the Legion in your deeds or words? Yes, you did at the end. So you picked up 3 XP. Let's go to Theia. Did you destroy someone with just your words?
I don't think so. She mocked the boatman, but I don't think he was destroyed by her. I think he's a little bit too tough for gentle taunts to destroy him.
Indeed. Did you perform publicly or intimately in a way that shifted the balance of power?
I felt, well, that's what I was trying to go with performing, like playing music to the sister Shayna to kind of
oh, I'm into it. Yeah,
give a sense that she has something that Shayna does not.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Okay.
Okay, so you will have picked up 3 XP total with your Wolf King quest.
I filled my track there.
You can go in advance and then just take the excess. So
amazing.
Callix, did you give cold comfort to the suffering? Yes, you did. Very cold comfort. Did you give a wild-eyed monologue about how the land is speaking to you even now? I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so you picked up 3 XP as well. And Fenwyn, did you slip past an enemy when fighting them was an option?
Kind of, but not really with the nobles.
I don't think that quite. I can tell you were kind of trying to do that, but I don't think it quite.
Yeah, I think Ash made it less of a threat. Yeah. I did roll with Cinder, though.
You did, indeed. Yes, very good. Did you demonstrate your amazing physical talents to someone else's wonder and astonishment?
I mean, if we're counting the flashback, I was eaten by a snake.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. I think that totally counts. Okay, so you picked up 3 XP as well. Let's keep going here. I will remind you all, I think, Calyx, you have to stoke the fire or do some other similar narrative prompt when we start next session. And yeah, with that, we'll just go to Stars and Wishes. Very excited because we are at the Lands Remaining next time. But we got plenty of time to luxuriate in Elegy, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'll start with my stars. I was really quite moved by the Fog Shrouded Sea song. I was like, oh man, Michelle's really getting me here with this song that she wrote in 10 minutes. So that was great. Really love that. Let's see what else. Gosh, it was an interesting session because it kind of felt like kind of a wrap up session, kind of a transitional session, and so we got just like lots of storytelling, which was really great. Really loved the Old Fire narration, Matt. That was so great. Like it just really it painted such a cool, vivid picture. The Gilded Shrine narrations were super cool. Like, this was such a fun, like, flashing back to the world of the old fire session. And so, which is appropriate because we did the Morning Tower. So that was really terrific. The Fen scene, that was really gruesome. And I just kind of hate Callix, which I think is the right response to that. And Star as well for that little speech you gave to unmark that aspect. Ash was really, really great. But that little, like, I just loved it. I thought it was so great. Like, I was like, oh, kind of want to write that down somewhere. It was really terrific. So yeah, just good time all around. Very excited to be at the Lands Remaining, and because the vibe changes, once you get to the Lands Remaining, it's not so gloomy.
Yeah, go on then. Jason, this is my favorite game now. So the Between is fine, but the Lands Remaining is where it's at. Well done. Matt, your flashback as Fenwyn, like the whole being consumed by the snake while in tandem describing how you killed the child prince, the boy who would never become king.
I never killed that kid. I just want to make that clear. Haskell would have done.
I see.
He was executed in a tower. Like, that's
right.
I want to stop this right now. Nip this in the bud here.
Right. Okay. So it sounded like it, and I was like, "Oh, right, we've got a kid killer, fair." Okay, but no. Either way, like, I love all the description about it. I love all of the way that you've brought this sort of regal sense to the Lands Remaining. I think at this point we know the Lands Remaining are these beautiful wilds, and there's so much that hasn't been defined about them yet that we know of. We know Elegy, and this is our first look back into, realistically, like, the grandeur of it, the spectacle of it, what used to be. And it's a really, really lovely image that you've built sort of like the foundations of, and there's so much we can do with that. So that's amazing. Wren, your description when we were doing Lord Merciful's big gilded castle of, like, essentially the hideous like food orgy with that happening, and the line that everyone was there as fodder, like a complete fucking misdirect right up until that end sentence. And I was like, oh, whatever this massive sacrifice is going to be, that's lovely. It was a really nice way of leading into it. The description was just on point, and it properly, a little shiver went up my spine the minute you said fodder. I was like, God, that's a good line. So just kudos on that. Michelle, as always, with all of your references to music, using your Cinder in particular body of music and worship was so perfect for that. It was such a good Cinder to use in that regard, and it just gave us this beautiful lens that we could look through and find some real brilliant horror in this lovely lens that you gave us, and make it all the worse. Yeah. My favorite episode so far, my favorite session so far, and every session we've done is my favorite session so far, so doesn't get much better than that, does it?
I will give a star for Jess. Obviously that last narration was horrifying. I wrote content warning Jess in chat. But I also want to give you a star actually for the solve on the Pale Crossing. I thought that was a really beautiful way of looking at it. The idea of the reverse funeral procession, like the idea of, like, bringing ourselves back to life rather than laying ourselves to rest, was like a really lovely interpretation that was really exciting. So a star for that solve. It was really cool. I want to give a star to Wren for honestly just that ritual at the end, that prayer, that recitation was so evocative. And every time Ash speaks, I feel like I understand him better, but also have more questions about him. He's a man of few words, but when he speaks, like, I hang on to every one of them. So I just love it. It was a lovely little nugget of insight, that ritual. Matt, big fan of you being eaten by a big snake. Also, I actually really loved that the enthusiasm with which you embrace terrible things, like when you were offered the crypt visual condition, and it's like you're going to go back to that same crypt again, and you're still not going to get to go in it, and you're like, yes, give me it, torture me. I think we all have that energy about us, but it just always brings me joy to see our little mouse get chased about. So that was great. And Jason, star for you. I think I've mentioned it's a pretty good game you've made so far. Really have just enjoyed and loved exploring Elegy, and I just can't wait to see the rest of the world that you're building.
A good game
so
we're building, a good game we've all made increasingly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so excited. I texted Jason earlier with a question for the mystery I'm writing, and he said, "You'll find out tonight." And I was like, damn it, Jason. Love it. So excited.
Star for Michelle, I mean, for the song, of course. It was brilliant, and as well, just it sounds so in the world. So it's just so easy to sink in and believe that this is happening, and this is a song that is a part of the world. And so a great amount of skill and talent to do that so quickly. And also, I really enjoyed your conversations with the sister. I love all of the side characters that we get to meet, and just when people target them. And speaking of targeting side characters, Jess, what the fuck? Just what the Fen. Oh, poor thing. No, your narration, the setup narration that you did for the Gilded Shrine, as well as the narration that you did as well for the crucifying him on the tree. I'm trying to put that in better terms, but there's none better. Creating an oracle for yourself. It was fantastic, and I love to just watch you become a terrible person in real time. That's just so fun to experience. Matt, I always enjoy when we talk. And I enjoy when we talk when both of us are characters who don't like to talk. The dynamic is coming off the previous dynamic that we had in public access to this. They are so disparate, and it just makes me so curious to see how all of our characters are going to evolve and interact with each other over time. But I also, again, echoing what Jess said, love that you are just so gung-ho about the terrible things that can be inflicted upon you by Jason. And Jason, I really enjoy the struggles and the way that there's different ways to resolve things. Like, so far, no struggle, despite the fact that we have had one every session. None of them have felt similar. Like the kind of emotion that I get from them, the feeling as we're going through the different movements and stuff, they're all like very unique to the moment that we're in. And I really enjoy that. Yeah, no, it's a great game.
I'm going to have to change the opening of the episode to this actual play is intended for mature audiences and contains Jess. I think that will be, because fuck, dude. Like, I knew that we were building up to it, but he didn't disappoint in the best possible way. Jason, like, you're a very subtle knife twister as a keeper and GM. And there was one thing that I noticed, I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but like when you described Calyx's death, the worst part of it was giving her the honorific.
Yeah.
The fog shrouded sea.
That was just mean.
That was just mean. Really fucking mean. Just like, stop it, she's already dead. That was cool. Wren, I think Ash, like, I keep thinking of like every time you're in a situation, if I'm thinking, oh man, if I'm in Wren's position, I'm Danny DeVito. I'm just taking out a gun and starting blasting. But then you're like going to talk this noble down and do this kind of like this lovely little thing. And I was all ready for some fucking nonsense to have to get myself out of that. And I was like, I don't really need to now. This is all right. But yeah, and again, I loved that ritual narration at the end. That was absolutely fantastic. Michelle, you're just taking the piss at this point, I think. We have to record those songs and have them somewhere else in the actual play. That has to happen. And then also like the thing that occurred to me, and this is for like the game as a whole. Everyone has said lots of things already that I agree with. But like when I was sitting down to think of that old fire prompt today, and I had to write some of it down because like it was quite complicated because it was nested flashbacks. It was a flashback within a flashback, right? And I was just like, God, I'm gonna mangle the fuck out of this if I don't write this down. And I was just like, right, I've just been asked for a flashback that's very specifically about like, you know, what was my greatest achievement in the Crystal Door or whatever. And then by the end of it, I was like, well, hang on, now we've got like sort of some kind of comment about like the military industrial complex in the time before the dimning, and like all of this stuff was just kind of like falling out, and I was just like, wow, like we've got all this story just from these little things, and it came from the shrine as well, and like you know, just giving me the vigil to do outside the crypt. I'm 100% going to do that because I want to learn more about the world, and I know that it's not just going to be, oh, some ghouls are after you. Do you know what I mean? And like every single part of this game seems to be like a pit trap covered with leaves, and you step on it, and then you're impaled on the barbs of story and character. It's very, very tricksy, but fair play. Well done.
Fantastic. Okay, that's all I've got then for today. Thank you all so much. This was a great session, and I'm excited to pick it back up next week.